Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm chatting with Shawn Khunkhun from Dolly Varden Silver. In today's interview, we discuss the silver market and why it is perfectly positioned for retail investors to start to maybe get a little bit excited. In this interview, I really pick up on a calmness in Shawn's voice, someone who is very well connected in the mining industry. He's backed by the likes of Frank Justra and Eric Sprott. He's in Justra's office. Sprott's a major investor, talks with pretty much anybody who's anybody in the space, and just the sense that he has that everything is about to take off. Well, you'll pick up on it in the interview. All right, everybody, enjoy the show. Shawn, it's good to see you again.
Good to be here. Nice to see you. I look forward to seeing you in person in the next couple of days.
Absolutely. So, Shawn, since the last time we had you on the show, gold has had a pretty good few months. We haven't seen silver seem to keep up pace quite as strong. Normally, when gold rips, silver comes in and is that ultra torquey play that comes in twice as hard. What's happening? What's your read on the silver market?
Yeah, great. Listen, great question. Look, I think if we look at 2024, both silver and gold were up over 20%. They both had really good years, but as we talk today, the silver to gold ratio is still 90 to 1. And I think silver started the year $28, $29. It's over 32 today, so it's up, call it 10% on the year. So silver's it's doing well. It's doing as well as gold, but historically, you're right. As we reach more mature precious metal bull markets, silver tends to outperform. So, Steve, I think the lesson in all this is we're just this bull market is still just a baby. It's a baby bull in the early innings, and we've got a long way to go before we see that outperformance.
So, talking just general mining here. Earlier this month, BC Premier David Eby stated that he intends to fast track resource projects in connection with tariffs. The government was selective on initial targets for fast tracking, however. Do you foresee this effort expanding to the broader sector?
Yeah, listen, I saw Mystery or Premier EB down at the Roundup conference just about a month ago, and look, I think BC is. I think that's a politician being a politician, really. I think, look, the reality is whether it's BC, whether you look north to Yukon, we here in the north, without mining, we're naked. Okay, we need it. And we've had left-leaning governments in British Columbia, the Horgan government, the NDP, where, they were pro-mining. They gave out permits. I can think of two projects that come top of mind, Osisco Development's Caribou Project, Artemis Blackwater. BC permits mines. Mining is a monster part of our economy, and, it's one of those things where, I think, the premier is just being political, he's, and just talking tough against Trump like so many politicians are. But I think the reality is even without the tariffs, you have to let projects advance in the province because particularly in the north, they're big drivers of the economy.
So, I know that you don't have a crystal ball and
I do. I do actually, Steve.
okay, okay, you do. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then this is the question I got for you here is about the tariffs. Um, uh, Recently, I think it was uh, today, Trump said that he's going to move forward with them. What's your view on this? Do you think that we're going to
Steve,
see these tariffs move forward?
I I heard you're getting a gold card.
I heard about that.
Listen, I think Trump is just wonderful in terms of all his innovative ideas and his tough talk. But I think we have to be very, very careful. In the style of which he approaches some certain things. To answer your question, I don't think I have any idea of what Donald Trump is going to do tomorrow and how that's going to change the day after tomorrow. And so I'm gonna plead the fifth on this one. And but at the end of the day, look at the end of the day, those who have, those in the business community, those that are trying to do things, are celebrating Donald Trump and are very optimistic in the current environment. But I'm a big believer that it's all BS. In that, this is what I mean by that. In When it comes to mining decisions are made at a local level. Okay, so if a community in California doesn't want to mine, it doesn't matter that Donald Trump is now the president. That project is still a no go. Just like in BC, if you've got the NDP, it doesn't matter. You're gonna have certain governments that may speed things up or slow them down, but at the end of the day, the will of the local people win. And we see it play out. When we don't listen to it, bad things happen. Case in point, Panama. But I think this is where my office's approach to the way we approach the environment, the way we approach our First Nations partners is the way you have to do business. Listen, it was said by some smart people that God gave us two eyes and two ears and one mouth, right? Measure twice and cut once, and so um, to answer your questions on tariff, like I said, I don't know what Mr. Trump's going to do tomorrow. I don't even think he knows what he's going to do tomorrow. But he's doing some great things. He's also, I'm not a huge fan of the way his approach is. I think his approach on Ukraine is a little brash. At the end of the day, I like the net result, but I think his style could be refined.
Isn't it kind of fascinating though that we look at and I know I'm talking to a guy here who's actually successfully raised money in what is generally considered a pretty hard market for most people. Most people I talk to in junior mining, all they do is talk about how hard it is, and all you've done is go out and get results and raise a ton of money. So I might be talking to the wrong guy with this comment, but I just find it kind of odd how it seems like there's not a huge thirst for the equity side of mining companies in Canada and, why are we having these problems with Trump? Because he wants our resources. And it just it seems almost kind of ironic that, that Trump is after Canada for something that we don't really even see the value in. And I just find it kinda odd.
The best, Trump Canada thing for me is the whole, you know, guns and drugs coming south from Canada. Like, I don't know how, where any of these facts are. If, the data and the evidence is completely to the contrary. But you're right. I think, look, the US not only does it need our resources, but we're a large trading partner, right? You take Canada, you take Mexico, and you take China, and we are the big trading partners with the US. And and in terms of raising money, look, you're it's who you surround yourself with. I've been really fortunate that really good people have supported me, whether it's investment bankers or shareholders or business partners. I struggled like everybody else is struggling. And then I just had some incredible people um, support me. And I got lucky and got into some great projects at the right time. And so, um, you know, what I'm seeing right now on the capital side is when deals are getting put up, like I'm the CEO of Dolly Varden, but in order to keep our costs down, we work at an office where there's shared office space. And there was two companies that put up deals last week. One was a non-brokered deal uh, in in, um, in the
Premium
base metal
nickel?
space. Yeah,
Yep,
Premium Resources,
premium
and, that was
resources.
a deal where there was, $50 million of interest. That's a non-brokered deal, 50 million of interest, and then another co in the office here, West Red Lake, put up a gold deal, I think they went out for 12.5 million, and there was 60 million of demand. They ended up taking 20. And so what I'm seeing on the financing side is there is huge demand if the institutional investors know that there are adults running the company, that, the company is going to have a reasonable use of proceeds, that it's a group that has a proven track record, that are going to make the right decisions. I think there is more money than you need out there for projects. Now, what are the terms? The terms are not wonderful. This is still a buyer's market, right? This is a investor's market. It's not an issuer's market or a seller's market. But look, I've been around for 22 years. And in that 22-year period, um, I've seen environments where it is an issuer's market. 2010 was a market where the valuations were in favor of the companies. And, what I'd actually prefer is the current environment we're in, where the valuations are supportive of investors, because then investors are gonna make money. And there's nothing wrong with investors making money. It's something that our sector has not really seen a lot of, and it's why investors have stayed away from the sector and why we are so starved for capital. It's because mining is two things. It's cyclical, with commodity prices, and it's capital intensive. So in a capital intensive cyclical business, where you know, a lot of the times you're reacting, versus being proactive. The companies that are thoughtful and do plan, they're really successful. What makes the mining industry so difficult is what makes it so rewarding. And so what I like to focus on is I like to focus on best in class. Agnico Eagle, $55 billion company. And I've watched that company under Sean Boyd's leadership grow from a single asset, from a $20 million valuation to, $55 billion valuation. It's done it by through hard work, through transparency, through first and foremost, not just focusing on earnings, but focusing on how you treat communities and how you treat employees. And that's what's built this monster brand. I think there's 16,000 employees of Agnico now, operating mines all over the world, and doing it in a way where the communities are benefiting, and the employees are, the retention is incredible. So I think that is, Agnico just surpassed Newmont as the largest miner. Um, that is the aspiration that Dolly Varden aspires to. That is, when I started at Dolly 5 years ago, it was 5 years ago on, a week ago, February 18th, 2020, I had a $20 million company I took over. The corp is valued at 300 today. We've been as high as 456. We've got 30 in the bank, and we're growing and we're building. And, when you're small, you've gotta be lean and you've gotta be selective, but we are gonna see some exponential moments of growth. And, I look at the 11 silver cos that are out there operating. There's only 11 producing silver companies, and there's only 4 companies that are not in production that are bigger than a $200 million valuation, and Dolly Varden's one of them. We're one of 4 companies. So this is a scarcity situation. You talk about silver, there's a projected deficit of 150 million ounces this year. It's gonna be the 5th straight year of deficit. It's why silver prices are rising. It's why silver prices has doubled. It's next to impossible to find pure silver mines, and it's why there are only 4 codes. And so I think we're in a moment right now where money's showing up for the sector, and it's evident in all this financing activity. It's evident in Agnico going to a $55 billion valuation, gold 3,000. And I think if you really get into the weeds and you look at, okay, well, in Canada, gold is $4,000, silver's 46 bucks. I was talking about silver going back to an all-time high. It's almost here. It's there in Aussie dollars. It's there in a lot of other currencies. What I've seen time and time again is what happens in other currencies will soon happen in US dollars. It's just because the dollar's been the reserve currency for so long that it takes a little longer to but as the world moves away from dollars, and we've seen the world's global reserves go from 72% down to 58% in terms of the number of dollar denominated reserves globally, as the dollar's supremacy diminishes, we're gonna see things like $3,000 gold in USD, and the silver it'll take care of itself. It's coming, and we've got set the fundamentals are incredible, and I love the moment we're in for investors, for the sector, and no, it's a great time to be here.
The sense of calm you have talking about it, like, it seems like you're convinced that the train's left the station at this point. We spent the last number of years, you've been building out what you've been doing, going from a small, tiny resource to a pretty big one. You're obviously connected to Frank Juster's office, talking to a lot of guys who write big checks. I know Eric Sprott's a big supporter of yours, and, I just get the sense from the calmness in you talking about this that you're convinced that the train has left the station and the fun's about to begin.
Steve, I remember being that 20-year-old kid, and I was so lucky that I went to work for these incredible role models. Okay. And they were my age. They were in their 40s. I was in my 20s. And I watched them do things that I didn't understand. I watched them take wealth that they had built in their career and put it onto the table. I watched them place big bets, and I watched them get and have incredible conviction on things. And it doesn't come without experience. It doesn't come without going to visit hundreds of projects, meet with thousands of investors, go through decades of cycles, study history, understand the fundamentals, but then when you start to see things like, so what I'm seeing right now is a situation where the commodity prices are here, the equity valuations are here, the disparity is large, and I just feel a high degree of conviction, and that conviction's being validated every day. And I'm starting to see things that I saw during the last cycle. For example, when we correct, when we dip, the dips and the corrections are short-lived. All the signs that I really believe these bull markets kind of have three phases. You have your stealth phase, your first phase, your early phase, where it's, no one's there, nobody believes, few participants, it's boring, you got to get in early. And then the second phase is a stage where when you do correct, it's short-lived. And then you get into the third stage, which is the mania stage, and that's when everybody rushes in, the public rushes in, and a lot of the greatest moves occur in that last stage, the big moves. Living it, seeing it, studying it, going through it, and now watching it happen real time, and listen, I could be wrong, right? I could be totally wrong. And having that awareness and also trying to stay humble and be humbled by markets. There were a lot of people that were humbled by 2008. There was a lot of people in this town that had created a lot of wealth, and there was a lot of signs of big wealth, and had to trade in that wealth just to get through because they got very comfortable, you know. And when a market in our business, when a market goes no bid, it goes no bid. And so having lived the 2020 market, when the market went no bid in March of 2020, April of 2020, having lived the GFC, in the fourth quarter of '08 when the market went no bid. Um, you're ready. You're ready for, what do you got? What do you got? You got a depression, you got a pandemic, conditions you. It actually almost conditions you to be a bear. And that's where I really think I feel bad for a lot of investors who are going to hit the first bid that shows up. And these are long suffering resource investors that are going, "Oh, gold's 3,000. This is it." But what they're not looking at is things like the Dow to gold ratio. They're not looking at the ratios are so important, the silver to gold ratio. They're not looking at where indexes are, like the venture exchange that's trading at 600 points. The venture exchange is lower today than where it was during the GFC. The venture exchange went from 3,400 points to 685 in the fourth quarter of '08. It's lower today than it was in '08. So to me, I think we could have a 500% move from here. And that doesn't factor in inflation. That doesn't factor in $3,000 gold, doesn't factor in anything. We should have 5x moves on a lot of these. And 5x is going to be for the broad group. Guys who know a lot more than me, who've seen a lot more cycles and markets than me, guys like Rick Rule will tell you that 80% of the success is really accomplished by 20%, and it's probably in our business, like, even less, right? But there's probably 100 people that sustain this business. Um, and so my point to you is not everything's going to go up 500%. You're going to have some things that go up 2,000, 5,000. Like there are moves that are coming. And I'm excited because I think the next 36 months are gonna be really, really rewarding. We're starting to see the rotation, right? We're starting to see the early signs of investors go from one sector into other sectors, and this is a value sector that's on sale. And because money's being made in the sector, because you do have takeovers that are occurring, in we had in the silver space, we had the Silvercrest, we had the Gatos, a small deal in the gold space was the O3, but we're starting to see these long-suffering
We
investors,
had Caliber just this week.
Caliber just this week, and so I think it's a great time, and what's gonna be amazing is because we've gone through this period, like if we look at the gold mining industry, it was an industry that when I started had maybe $1 billion worth of debt. Okay. And just to put things into context, so billion in debt, the US probably had, I don't know, maybe 4 trillion in debt. Or 4 trillion, 1 billion, right? Now where we went as an industry is we went to 40 billion at the end of the decade, at the height of the market, 1900 gold, 2011. Um, what the industry's done now is it's brought down that debt. Companies have we've seen these massive mergers, right? Like, massive, massive mergers like Rand Gold Barrick, like Newmont Gold Corp, Newmont, um, and I'm thinking of the Aussie producer that was Newcrest. So we've had these massive mergers, and what's gonna come from that is, as you've seen, all these Newmont divestitures. And so even from this recent deal with Caliber Equinox, I'm sure there's gonna be things in the Equinox portfolio or in the Caliber portfolio that no longer fit that vision. And so what's exciting for investors is there's gonna be opportunities to get behind some of these assets and these co's, and I just think it's a fascinating time in the business because those who are left here are really, in my opinion, best in class. Because who would have survived this bear market are those who, it's the Frank Justras, the Pierre Lassans, the Ross Beatties, the Lundin family, the Rob McEwen, Eric Sprott, Friedland. There's, you can count them on two hands, a group of serially successful investors that over decades, and in the case of the Lundins over a century, had success in our business.
So, Sean, I got to sneak in a question about Dolly Varden here because I know it's a popular name. We actually got to go see the project last summer, and for anybody who hasn't seen that on our channel, we'll put the link in the description. What does 2025 look like for Dolly Varden? Can you give us a high level overview of what we can expect out of the company?
You know what I'm so proud about Dolly Varden is every year the market cap's higher, the share price is higher, and the balance in terms of the treasury and the mineral inventory is greater. I just love that. We started last year at $180 million valuation, started this year over 300 million. Started last year with less than 10 million in the bank. We started this year with over 30. I love those numbers. And so Dolly Varden is armed and dangerous. We've got treasury and we've got targets and we've got a team. And so we've got something that's scarce and rare in silver. So we've got the silver horizon Torbrit wolf that is incredible. It's delivering high grade results, thick results. So this is where a third of our focus is going to be. Deliver something that's impossible to find, which is this Torbrit horizon. I can't think of another company that's putting out results like Dolly Varden. We're talking about 90 meters of 357 silver EQ, silver gold deposit. It is incredible, incredible stuff. Now, in addition to that, you've got this phenomenal golden, classic golden triangle um, deposit in Homestake. You talk about the great golden triangle deposits, Brucejack, Eskay, Premier, so you've got a third of our focus silver, a third of our focus silver gold, and then we got all these exploration targets that are, we're hitting on. We're hitting on, we're delivering, we're learning more. So it's going to be a year where we drill heavy, we drill hard, and the last 3 years we've pulled some of the best results, not only in the area but also the industry. And then I got to take my hat off to our neighbor, Goliath, Roger Rossum's company um, has done I gotta hand it to Roger. He's done one of the best jobs in the industry. Uh, he's got it's just the first meeting I did was with Roger, and I think the company was 10 cents a share. It's well over $2 today. He's raised a, a meaningful amount of money with some of the smartest names in the business. And why I celebrate this, it's like my neighbor, you know, uh, it's like my neighbor who's got a beautiful home, right? It only enhances the value of the street and the neighborhood. And, any big company globally that's looking at getting into BC, getting into the Golden Triangle, if you were ever not convinced that Dolly Varden's got enough, you add in with what Goliath is doing and this district. So you got Goliath, Dolly, and then you got Hecla. And you got this one of the most prospective parts of the Golden Triangle. It's also the most underexplored. It's a sub-base of the gold. So I just think I'm excited about Dolly, but I'm excited about the district because what I've learned about the Golden Triangle is and mining districts, whether it's the Abitibi, whether it's Nevada, once you start looking at them as districts and you start consolidating, you start bringing ownership into under one co, you've got the size, you've got the scale. And so I'm rooting for Goliath. I'm rooting for Dolly. I'm rooting for Hecla next door. And I think combined, we've got something here that's going to be talked about for the next 100 years.
And it's exciting too, just thinking about what could be when you think about um, just that area and how that area was absolutely booming like 100 years ago when there was no technology available to anybody. And now there's not really a whole lot of production going on, but there's all this technology available to you guys to go and prove out these huge resources, and we know it's there because you're finding it. And it's what thinking about what that area could look like. And I mean, we did a video on Goliath anointing them the next Great Bear. Um, it's pretty exciting to think about what this area could look like 10 years from now with all of these projects in production.
And that's why I think it's important for us, buying homestake, buying big bulk, and grabbing as much prospective land as possible. So it's not just about drilling holes. It's about having that business strategy. It's about aligning with the right investors and planning not for the next week or month or season. It's really about having that multi-year and even decade-long approach. Now we're 5 years into the journey, and that 5-year period was difficult because we had metal prices at depressed levels. But now that we're having some things that are happening with the physical market, where investors are asking for physical delivery, and we're seeing things like just in the LBMA alone, um, the inventory go from 34,000 tons down to 23,000 tons. That's what's causing the silver price to move. It's not just the industrial demand of solar and EVs and the rest of it. It is truly investors saying there is a difference between the paper market and the physical market, and we're starting to see that manifest into one price and multiple exchanges and a global market. So no, it's a really exciting time to be in silver, in gold, in mining equities. But the great thing is for investors is it's not late; it's actually early because I had a call with Bob Thompson today from Raymond James. And Bob is famous for, his mining clock, and if for anybody who doesn't know what that means, Google Bob Thompson, Raymond James mining clock, and essentially what he's trying to identify is, the cyclicality nature, when you wanna be a buyer is at 1 o'clock, and when you wanna be a seller is just before midnight, right? And so you wanna get in, and the point of all this is mining equities have never been cheaper. That's the point. And from a valuation standpoint, it hasn't begun. But from a commodity standpoint, from a metal standpoint, gold's maybe at 6 or 7 o'clock, right? So it hasn't reached its peak, but it's really in a mature market. It's off the $1,000 low of 2016. It's off the $200 low of 1999.
All right. Well, Sean, thanks so much for hopping on here and being generous with your time. I think that you're one of the good guys in the space, and certainly almost everybody I know who knows you speaks really highly of you. So I appreciate you doing this, and I look forward to seeing you this week at PDAC.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for all your support. We loved having you up at site, and thanks.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching, everyone.